105.1 TMC, good afternoon. Maayong hapon sa kanatong tanan. Welcome to not top of the morning, but on the spot. You know, we only do this segment every time we have a VIP, an important person who happens to visit the studios. That's why we're going to put them on the spot. Whatever time of the day it is, as long as Raf is here, as long as I'm here, we're going to do it. And today we stumbled upon one such, actually two people who are here live in the studios of 105.1 TMC. On the spot right now, we have Sarah. Maayong hapon, Sarah. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Maayong hapon.
Tell everybody you're a steward of the waters of Cebu and the Philippines. Tell me about your advocacy, please. And you're the reason why our other special guest is actually here. At least one of the reasons why our special guest is also here. Go ahead. Tell everybody about your advocacy, Sarah. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Cablatin.
Okay.
I would say I'm a steward or a weaver of the Handurao Panao project. Handurao is our beautiful Cebuano word that evokes memory and imagination. Panao means journey, and we've invited Cebuanos from government, civil society, business, citizen groups, academe to work towards restoring our watersheds for the next 2 to 3 years. And of course, the next generation for sure. But in this journey, we're going through 3 pathways. One is an ecosystem leadership journey, learning how to lead together to address divides and silos. It's also a learning journey where we're working with universities, learning sites, advocates for native trees and organic farming, regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, permaculture, working together as learning cities, several cities, municipalities of Cebu, to learn together, learn with the land, learn with the farmers, learn with their communities to restore our watersheds. And then lastly, it's a living lab where we're trying to look towards the next 2 or 3 years to scale solutions up to influence policy, wide to replicate wise practice, and deep to deepen trust and collaboration. So that's the journey that we're working on. And we're so privileged that we have had the chance to invite the people behind a wonderful advocacy of planting 380 million trees in the Philippines through the work of Grammy Award winner Apple the App. And so I'm going to let Dan Vo speak about it. Dan is here also in Cebu, and it's really such a special experience listening to their work and them coming here to just really, we just came from the top to listen to the farmers. So we're here to listen, we're here to understand how this collaboration can take place. So yes, should I pass it on to Dan?
Dan Vo, the manager of Apple the App. Thank you so much for being here in such, actually, zero notice, right? Zero notice. We actually just nudged Dan into getting inside the studios, and then all of a sudden, here he is. He found himself inside 105.1 TMC. Good afternoon, Dan.
Good afternoon, Jiggy. How are you doing?
How's it been? How you came from Top? That is literally somewhere pretty high, because the word top is means high, right? Mm-hmm. Top. And tell me about what you guys witnessed over there in Top. What was that? You were talking to farmers and stuff?
Exactly. We were talking to farmers. I'm here checking out different watershed opportunities, ways to kind of restore the land, and ways to create opportunities for farmers to make more money.
Okay, why
to be able to live off the land.
Why is this important to Apple the App? Because since you're actually here representing Apple the App, right?
Yeah.
As his manager, why is that important to him? What does a world famous Grammy Award winning artist have to do with the people in Top and the farmers there? Explain to our listeners. Go ahead, sir.
So Apple used to be a farmer
before
he was ever.
Oh my God! Really now?
Before he was ever a musician.
Oh.
When Apple grew up in Pampanga, working with his grandfather.
I did not know that.
watching the carabao.
Oh, wow.
And he's always had a love for agriculture and living off the land because of this. And when the pandemic happened and we couldn't do live shows anymore, we couldn't do especially Black Eyed Peas type concerts, we all thought about what our lives were before this one. What kind of jobs did we have? And for Apple, it was always agriculture. He always knew that he was going to go back into farming one day.
Wow.
And so he calls me very early in the pandemic and he says, you know, I want to get back into farming. I want to use my platform to do something with this, but farmers were poor when I was growing up and farmers are poor today. So how do we change that? And around that same time, Apple started learning about soil degradation and the kind of state that soil is in all around the world, and it freaked him out. And so he goes, how do we solve this? How do we fix this? What can we do? And he stumbled upon a thing called biochar, which is a natural fertilizer.
Biochar.
Yeah, so biochar is the process of...
It's a process.
It's an organic fertilizer.
Okay.
Created by a process called pyrolysis. And anything that has bio-waste in it, carbon in it, makes for fertilizer. One of the best inputs is coconut husk. And so there's a lot of coconut husk in the Philippines, and particularly, so we started traveling around the provinces, looking at these graveyards.
That is so interesting, right? I never knew, because I'm a huge fan of Black Eyed Peas. I'm a huge fan of Apple Day, but I never knew he was a farmer.
Yeah, we don't talk about it a lot. It doesn't really come up, and I think that's partly the issue, right? Like farmers are often not thought about. These invisible stewards of people who produce our food often get removed and from any kind of actual thought, from any actual kind of policy, from any kind of spreadsheet when we think about infrastructure and the human capital. So Apple decided to use his platform now to try to advocate for his family's profession and what he was and what he wants to be.
So
again.
his family is still farming.
Yeah, so he still farms. They have farms in Pampanga. Apple has a funny story about when he first started making money and the Black Eyed Peas started getting to be successful. His first major purchase was a rice farm because he didn't buy a car, he didn't buy a house. He called his mom drunk one night after a show, and she went and bought a rice farm. And
I'm buying a farm.
He was like, what will we always need? We'll need rice. So he calls her up, and she goes buys
That's
them
hilarious.
a farm, and they are still living off that farm today.
People get tattoos when they're drunk. They do something crazy and stupid. Apple the app buys farms, right? When he's drunk.
He buys farms because he's, and he thinks about like when he comes back here and he gets to live on like organic food and lives off the food at his own farm, and then he goes to LA and then it's considered super organic and super expensive, and he's like, I'm paying 7 times as much here in LA to go eat how everybody else eats back in the province. It's all just storytelling. It's all just
the
plating.
story of Apple the app is actually the story of a lot of the farmers in the Philippines, right? A lot of farmers, they have, of course, enough resources to put if they're lucky enough, to put their kids to school, and a lot of these children who go to school from the farmers normally don't take up agriculture. They normally take up a course that allows them to leave the country, right? Like nurses and others, right? So there's actually less and less people in the farms now because they look at farming as not really a ways to make a living. That's why they want to leave the country. And that's not just for farmers. That's most, or not most. I shouldn't say most. A lot of Filipinos who want to get the chance to go to what they would say, quote unquote, greener pastures, right? And we all know that the Filipino diaspora is like all over the world, right? So the story of Apple the app leaving the country for better opportunities is actually the story of the Filipino farmer.
100%. Apple, calls himself the biggest OFW,
Yeah.
right? He left on slightly different conditions. So Apple is blind legally. So he
What? I mean, like colorblind or blind?
blind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Jeez. He's a farmer and he's blind.
yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
Apple used to be one of those. If you ever see those commercials about like $1 a day kid, like if you send $1 a day, this kid in the Philippines will get to go to school and have an education. Apple is one of those kids.
Oh, wow.
So Apple was sponsored by somebody in the U.S. and he'd have to write these letters, and in his letters he would talk about, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at school, my grades are so bad, I can't see the board. His sponsor, who ultimately adopted him and became his father, decided to bring him to the U.S. to see an ophthalmologist. And Apple suffers from a condition called nystagmus, which is the involuntary movement of your eyeballs. And the ophthalmologist in LA basically revealed that it's preventable or treatable, but you have to catch it by a certain age. And Apple's too old, unfortunately. And in that moment, he's kind of figured out, how do I never have this thing happen again? Like, the technology had always been readily available, access to it. So how do you take the best from around the world and bring it back to the Philippines? And so through that, a lot of his advocacies have occurred. He has a program that detects retinal detachment in premature babies, because he's trying to fix blind. He's trying to resolve as many blind cases as he can in the world. Education opportunities, and then agriculture now. Just
Wow.
things a younger Apple could have used.
Unbelievable. There's so many. It's just amazing how much I didn't know about Apple the app. He's a farmer and he's legally blind, and now he's giving back, right? And being a manager of somebody as high profile as Apple the app must be pretty challenging, right? And I know you have been managing him for the last decade or so. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about how it is to manage somebody as high profile as Apple the app.
It's a challenge. I mean, for good and bad. Apple, as most artists are, has some crazy ideas that you have to at least begin to explore and see whether or not they work, or if there's any feasibility. There's a lot of times he's quite the visionary on putting an idea out, even if it's abstract, and then finding the truth in there somewhere. He's constantly adjusting and trying to improve on things that you think is already really good, and the perfectionist parts of him, will get to you. He's also an incredibly sweet guy. He always takes photos with people. He's always kind of giving back. He's always considerate of the community that he knows helped create him. He's a bunch of juxtapositions, I guess. But he's a really great guy at the end of the day.
You're not here. You're here not only because of the advocacy that is close to the heart of Apple. You're actually also here exploring an idea of perhaps having the guys, or Apple, for that matter, do something here in Cebu, right? Tell me about that. I know it's still a kind of a secret, but tell me what you can reveal about Apple the app's plans for Cebu.
Yeah, so working with Sarah, right, and creating this planting project, whether reforestation, agroforestry. One of the things that we think about for music is just its ability to bring people together. It's always kind of the superpower,
the universal language, right?
The universal language of it all,
yeah.
right? And so, how do you want to aggregate people, and why? And in this case, Apple wants to do a kind of a country tour through the provinces. I know Cebu is not necessarily a province when you describe like that. So how do you connect to the farmers? How do you connect to the stewards of the land? How do you connect to other thought leaders that can kind of help push this advocacy along. And you can do that through music quite easily, right? Like we aggregate them here for a show. We happen to give people seedlings and some technology pieces as part of our projects. Then you start onboarding the education of why we're doing all of this, and you just bring it together through music.
What is Apple the Apps, and what is your ultimate goal? What's the end game? How does it look like? You're doing all of these events to gather and aggregate people and all of that stuff, and what's his vision? What does he want to happen ultimately?
He wants the Philippines to grow food again. He wants the country to be self-reliant. When we started looking at soil, it was around the time that the onion crisis was going on.
I remember that.
In a not so distant future.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly being at a restaurant with him in a hotel, and we ordered beefsteak. And of course, you have to have onions on your beefsteak, right?
Beefsteak, like the local beef steak, right?
Yeah, like
beefsteak.
Beefsteak.
You have to say that in it's sort of an accent at the end, like beefsteak.
Beefsteak. And the restaurant had put on this fresh onion at the top.
Okay.
And if you did the calculations, they made no money on the plate. But they gave it because it was Apple, of course.
They gave you a mound of onions,
They gave
right?
a mound of onions that we knew exactly how much they cost. And how would you ever, as a country, how do you ever reach a level of independence if you can't feed yourself, right? How do you be susceptible to an import of everything? And so for Apple, he wants to see the country literally grow. He wants them to grow food again. Anything can grow in this country. And hopefully that leads to farmers getting younger and being proud of the kind of produce and the food that comes out. And at some point in time, we start exporting products instead of people.
Products instead of people. I'm curious about the farmers here in the Philippines. The common perception, although of course nothing is ever universally true, but the common perception is most of the farmers here in the Philippines are poor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure Apple the App is familiar with how they live, right? Their income monthly is pretty small. I'm curious, is it the same or where you are in the States? Are farmers also relatively less affluent compared to other endeavors, other jobs?
It varies. I think you have, big farmers who have direct access. A lot of times I think for a farmer, it's the access, right? It's the number of middlemen in between a farmer pulling a carrot out of the ground and it getting onto a plate at a restaurant. And the number of people that has to cut through is what changes it. The Philippines can feel quite unique in that everyone understands the middleman concept a lot more than in other countries, which then obviously really hurts the farmers. We want to use in our program that you can find at omtse.com, OMTSE, where we have the farmers blockchain all of the trees that are planted, in part because...
Okay, wait a minute. So I don't... that might be too complicated.
Okay.
Blockchain the trees that they have planted. Explain to us what you mean when you say
Sorry,
blockchain.
I'll take blockchain
right?
out.
Yeah. No, because...
Take a photo of a tree.
Okay.
Because it begins to create the ability for a farmer to connect with the buyer directly, right? And if you can shorten the supply chain, then a farmer just gets more of their work, more of their worth, of their value from what they've grown. It also allows, so at the heart of our project is coconut. Right. A coconut, everyone in the Philippines knows that this is the tree of life and it has zero waste and all of that. But unfortunately, most of a coconut in this country gets wasted. right? People make copra and they don't use the water and they don't use the shell and the husk. And if a farmer was able to get several harvests off of the same coconut, it would be much more valuable for them. So the coconut farmer, who is generally the poorest of not one of the most poorest farmers, would suddenly be able to participate in several different economies off the same fruit and would be able to be in emerging markets. Like the coconut globally is being researched and understood as a thing for biofuel and a thing for activated carbon and a thing for waste energy and and a water. But here it is not treated the same way that it should. And I think that needs to change. And I hope a program like ours can help bring a farmer to the global stage.
You know, one of the things that people are complaining about all the time, especially all the bright boys, the economists and all of that stuff, compared to other Asian neighbors, the Philippines does not make anything. You know, we're not a manufacturing country, right? Even the example that you gave, coconut, right? We've never really thought of how to put processes and package it or whatever to make something that we can sell to the world. It's actually a fairly recent phenomenon that we actually applied some form of technology to coconut, right? I think cocoa water was huge for a while, right? And I think it's still to a certain extent huge. And of course now we have ube too, right? Which is also huge. And we never really, we never really developed it because we were so comfortable with the coconut in its pure form and never have to apply any technology into it so that we can make it into something that we could sell to the world. And I think it took somebody from like an outsider to tell the Filipino, hey, you should bottle this, you should put this in a can or whatever and apply some processes. That is actually our biggest challenge is our limitations, I guess we would say that. As a people, we don't really think of technology when we think of agriculture as much as we would like to, right? And I think that's an important aspect there. Maybe we should start thinking also of what we can apply as far as technology goes to improve and maybe make something.
Yeah, I mean, I think where the global markets are now, and how the world views things like coconut and cacao and all of these products or produce that create such value and have existential values on them, like the Philippines can really be the leader. Like things grow here, everything grows here.
Yeah.
We often think about cacao. So there's a global shortage in cacao, so much so that people treat it like a stock and buy futures because they suspect pricing increases over the next several years. Because there's conflict in West Africa, right? And there's labs in San Francisco growing artificial cacao because they're trying to meet this global demand.
Wow, there is such a thing as artificial cacao?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Everywhere.
Wow.
And here it grows everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so, but nobody processes it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
this idea of exporting raw material and importing finished goods is what needs to really change.
Yeah,
and that could be true of agriculture and farming.
Yeah.
That could be true of a musician who has to make it big abroad to come back. It's true of creative sectors. It's creative nickel and people exporting nickel and importing batteries, whatever it is.
So in other words, we're full of natural resources. The Philippines is full of natural resources. We haven't really maximized it, right? And I think it's about time that we're able to do that. I think it is amazing that Apple the App is actually thinking about that. Of course, he has his roots here as, like you said, he's also a farmer. But aside from that, of course, Apple the App is known for him being a musician, an artist, one of the members of the band Black Eyed Peas, right? I'm curious, because we just had this conversation a few days ago about Filipino artists. And a lot of people are complaining, why is it that, we are so ahead of our friends in Asia when it comes to music? Why is it that there is already a K-pop is already ruling the world with K-pop music, and we were supposed to be ahead of them in terms of talent and time investment because we have been doing the singing thing, for a long time. Maybe Apple the app and you, based on what you have observed and what you have seen, what do you think is lacking in the Philippines? That how can we have the globe listen to Filipino music in the same way that the world is now listening to and is a fan of Korean music or K-pop music? What do you think should we do as a country?
I think Korea was really interesting in that they made a very deliberate government push at this, right? In the 90s, they decided, I think it was, in Korea, they saw a James Bond movie. They saw a 007 movie grow so much globally and said, that one investment has thousand-folded. We should do that. And so they threw a bunch of things in there, but they also manufacture other products, right? So you can line up a BTS and a Kia car and a Samsung because the unfortunate truth is that music itself doesn't make any money. And so if you take a P&L on a musician, it's really hard, right?
Profit and loss analysis, right?
Yeah.
So music does not actually make money, but
by itself.
By
right?
itself, okay.
Like streaming, we're never gonna make the money back from the streaming. So you have to these days put it together with a concert or the merch that you sell, or what are these other avenues that have marketing dollars that you can attach the music to, whether it's video games or movies or something like that. Because how do you justify putting, let's just say, 1 million pesos behind the advertisement of a song that you'll never make back? But if there's 1 million pesos in a video game or a car commercial or something else, then you can start putting all these things together.
Yeah.
I think that's one aspect of it, is like, where does the money come from to make this worthwhile? The other one that I think is really hard is IP. Like, Filipinos, by far the best singers in the world, right? Like, I don't think anybody would argue with that anywhere. How much effort do we put into original music and original storytelling? You can go anywhere in the world and you can see a Filipino cover band sing Whitney Houston better than Whitney Houston. But, and taking it back to Apple, like, it's not the best rapper in the world. It's definitely not the best singer in the world. But he wrote I Got a Feeling. And for that, he will always have money. Right? That song will play forever and ever and ever. And it's this treatment of IP. So I'm going to shamelessly plug it.
Go ahead.
So Apple worked with this school in Cavite called Sisters of Mary. It's a school comprised mostly of orphans. And Apple got really interested in Christmas music. Because the Philippines celebrates Christmas longer than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
Christmas
September
is a 4-month holiday here, September 1st.
In fact, it's almost Christmas.
It's almost Christmas now. You start seeing the trees and stuff. And he goes, well, but for all of that, there isn't really that much original Filipino Christmas stuff, right? Like, there's no original Christmas songs really that are that big. How is it that we are celebrating a holiday for 4 months and only consuming we have Jose like every once in a while, but like, you should be pumping out Hallmark versions of content because you spend so much time consumed in it.
Okay.
So he worked with the school and he gave them the masters of the song, and he made an original Christmas song with them.
Okay.
It's called It's Our Time of Year. And he then shamelessly plugs it to all of his friends in Hollywood. It's like, oh, you're making a movie and you need songs to sync. Here's this song. Like, I'm gonna play this song to death so that the kids get to stream it.
What is the song?
It's called It's Our Time of Year.
It's Our Time of Year.
Yeah.
Okay. So he sings in this particular song, or
he didn't sing it,
but
he released it.
So the school, the students,
the students all sang it.
Oh wow!
He brought his the Black Eyed Peas writers and producers to help. He flew them to the Philippines to record it and write it and produce the song with the school.
When did this come out?
It came out holiday season 2024.
Oh, okay.
But every year, September 1st, he shamelessly comes back to it, and it's just like trying to sling the song.
I heard you say IP.
Intellectual property.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you mean by that? Because you think that that's the one thing that we don't usually do. In relation to what you just said, what do you mean when you say IP?
So, I mean, intellectual property, and it's the creative, just the creative thing of making something new, even if it's not great in the beginning.
Okay, because I thought you were talking about licensing an idea when you say IP, because that's what it means to me when I hear the word IP.
It is. I mean, it is in part, right? So it's like you can write "I Got a Feeling,"
Mm-hmm.
and people can make covers of that, and you will always get
A residual, right?
a residual of their
Correct,
covers,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it doesn't matter how well or bad you sing a cover, the person who wrote it gets the money from this. And so I would hope that the Philippines has so many unique, compelling stories to be told. There's 7,000 islands and a
7,107 islands on high tide.
I'm gonna go 7,000 plus because the numbers change with climate change to and fro.
Yeah, so that is just amazing, and I think that's what we need to know. We need to know, we need to know all of these things that the world is doing. So you can teach the students how to make music, and how perhaps maybe you can teach them how to license an idea or a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the new economy involves a lot of licensing, right now, right? I mean, we live in a increasingly or actually mostly digital world now, right? And everything needs to get paid, and you need to trace who the original artist is and all of that stuff. And it seems to me that the Filipinos has not really fully capitalized on it, right? The global economy, we don't really benefit from it as much as we should, and as much talent that we have here as we should, right? And you're right. I mean, it's about resource allocation. And if a government, for example, invests on its musicians, they've got to see the returns immediately, right? Otherwise, they're going to be booted out of their place because they invested on something that did not work. So I think a proof of success is crucial, right? But the thing with that is sometimes it's difficult to measure, proof of success when it comes to, let's just say, an artist, right? And so the only way that you can actually have proof is the one that's being recorded. So naturally, the album sales, for example, like the concert sales and all of that stuff. But that's it, right? There's so much cultural influence a song does to the world that it's difficult to measure. Let's say, for example, K-pop, right? People are using the makeups of these K-pop artists, right? And they're eating their food and so on and so forth. So how do you measure that? You can't, right? But I think cultural influence in the world is an intangible that's so powerful, but governments can't measure that.
No, they can't measure, but you can build correlations, right? And for us, I would hope that you can measure it by people wanting to plant a tree.
Yeah. People wanting to plant a tree. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, in case you're wondering who you're listening to Don and Sarah. They're both here for an ocular inspection of something big involving Apple Diap, and in Cebu at that. And of course, Apple Diap's advocacy lies with Sarah here, and the waterways of the Philippines, of Cebu in particular, right? Kanibang waterways, by the idea of waterways, because the Philippines obviously is an archipelagic nation, like you said, 7,000 plus islands, right? So there's so many waterways. Tell me about that story, because that's a story that we all know that we're island people. Like there's a beach. We can see the beach from where we're at right now, right? And we can be at the beach, barring any traffic, in 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So the water has always been a part of the Cebuano life, but yet because it's such a omnipresent thing, we don't really think about it as much as we would like to. So what have you been doing to our waterways here?
Yeah, well, it's good to say that we don't really think about it so much until it floods, right?
Exactly.
Until everything's washed away. and we forget that we have a relationship with water. But first of all, Sugbo, the pre-colonial name of Cebu, means to wade in water.
Yeah.
So we are water people, but we forget that, like you said, no? And then until the floods come, and we had Typhoon Tino last year, and then we had Typhoon Odette, reminding us how powerful water is. And the reason why we're working on this is because most of our attention is in the lowlands, because we live here, right? Lowlands. We live by the river. A lot of us are near the sea, but that's because we're so disconnected from uphill, like to the mountains where our water is formed, like in the watersheds, like where water is stored, water flows from. And so the waterways that we're talking about is where water often is coming from, the source, the headwaters. And Cebu has like the Cebu Central Protected Landscape, CCPL, where it hosts many watersheds. A watershed technically is like, it's like the one that holds the water from the forest up to the catchment, to the river downstream. And river basins are multiple watersheds that flow through rivers, and to the sea. So this is this awareness of the relationship that's important. So our work is about that, reconnecting our relationship to water as Cebuanos, and that like today we also did a watershed tour up at the Carbon Forest. And we wanted we realized how much Cebuanos are not aware of our watersheds, are not aware about our forests, where these watersheds are, and the importance of these forests. Because when we spoke to the farmers, a lot of them said, because of the El Nino, lots of drought, we have no water. So imagine that, if we had protected our forests, or that how much of the runoff that falls from how fast our water flows from above to the sea, when ideally, so instead of like around 3 weeks, we're also working with the Soil Water Conservation Foundation. They said like here in Cebu, the water flow rush from the top of the headwaters to the sea is around 10 days, but normally, ideally, it's around 3 to 4 weeks. So imagine that's why we had lots of flooding. We don't have enough trees to hold the water, to hold the soil, to keep the water in, to sink it, to slow it, to store it. And that's important for us to thrive, as a people, especially we're water people. We live by the river, we live by the sea. It's important for us to have a rekindled relationship with water.
And I'm certainly hoping that Apple the App and you guys, Sarah and Don, can help us in that department, right? Because I think one of the things that we really need is just also awareness and education, right? And I think bringing you guys being there, and bringing hopefully somebody like Apple the App to gather all of them and maybe perhaps talk to them and inform them. What have you noticed, by the way, when you spoke to the farmers? Are they aware of these things that you were talking about, or is this something foreign to them when you first uttered those words about water?
Well, our first intention was to really just listen,
Okay.
not to propose or advocate, because first important for us to understand where they're coming
Yeah,
from.
do they know that?
A big drive of farming is economic.
Of course, yeah,
economic
absolutely.
need, right? So we always think of the short-term win.
Yeah.
Like we need to earn right away. So the long-term thinking, so you keep on using pesticides, you keep on using inputs that are harmful. So it's that the realization later on that the soil is gonna die or that the water is gonna run out is not in the awareness. So that's the first thing we really notice. And so the idea of this collaboration is where looking at if there's an economic design that's ecologically sound.
Wow.
Where you have an
Economic design that's ecologically sound.
because
Sounds like an
it's-
oxymoron, right?
Yeah, because always, right? When you think of economy,
Yeah.
it's always it equals to you're gonna destroy. something,
Exactly. Right. So economy, profit,
yeah.
destruction. Right.
Yeah.
So how do you make it
Yeah.
ecologically sound?
Yeah, so the goal is to find a discover design, of course, context-based of the place,
Okay.
right, the relationship. And then expanding the idea of value chain into a value web. Like, because we go beyond just a chain. When you think of it as a chain, it becomes your
Yeah.
the metaphor
Yeah,
of it
yeah.
alone is you're locked in.
Yeah.
But when you think of a web, The relationship of value is
Yeah.
your value in the value of nature, the value of people, the value of the bird,
Yeah,
the bee,
yeah.
The tree, everything.
Ecosystem, that
connected, yeah.
nature is such a it's such a
Yeah.
complicated and sensitive relationship, right? Must everything go right for what you envision to actually happen? Because it looks like it has a lot of moving parts. Like you said, you described it as a web, right? Must everything work right for it to actually work, or could it be some of the things that didn't actually work and some works and all of that? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
nature is such a complicated and sensitive and volatile relationship, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if one falters, then is there like a correcting mechanism?
Yeah. So I'm a permaculture designer.
Okay.
So our first practice is to observe and understand nature.
Mhm.
When you design with nature, you don't get lost because you understand that nature has a pattern, and you understand how nature, when you design against it. So take for example, you build over, like build something like rivers, as we've seen after Typhoon Tino. Lots of flood mitigation that are lots of cemented, and it tried to structure the river. But rivers are naturally flowing. Rivers find their way. They're natural, they're curved, they're never straight. But if you create this straight thing over something that's curved, the curved thing will actually take over, and it will just break all these the straight thing of the walls, no? So that in itself is forgetting how to design with nature. So those are things that we want
Forgetting to
restore.
design with nature in mind, right?
Yeah, but it's also forgetting the relationship we have with nature.
You know what? See, Apple Diap was born and raised in the Philippines, was a farmer, but now he's in the big city. He's based in LA, at least for a while. I don't know if he's still based there, and he's part of this huge industry, right? He's part of the commerce machine, right? And I'm curious, how does he think about the money making machine that is Hollywood, and nature, and the balance of trying to design or decide and think about nature. These are probably opposing forces, right? In my
Yeah.
mind.
I mean, he's flawed, right? But he learns, and he's learning, and I think that's what's kind of important. Fortunately, for whatever it is, like some of the decisions that he's able to make because he has some money, he can make the more ecologically conscious decision, even though he knows it's going to cost twice as much for that, right? And he tries to improve. And I think that's kind of all we can ask of him or any other of these artists. Like, it's going to be impossible to try to pull off a 100%, renewable, 100% anything from the get-go. But I think it's about making improvements as we go along, and a series of resolutions in our entertainment states until we get somewhere better. Try not to be wasteful. We try to he tries to look at labels about where things are made and educate himself more on fast fashion of things. He tries to rewear things more. But yeah, he's still often he still has more clothes than he should. He still likes to eat more fast food after a late show, and what's the repercussions on the supply chain and all that. So he's not perfect, but he's trying.
He's like most 8 billion of us, right?
Of course, yeah.
Slightly human, right? So I know Apple the app was supposed to release something. I overheard you say something about a song when we were walking towards the studios, when I was nudging you to the studios and trapped you here in the booth so we can have this interview. What is this new song that he's supposed to release, Don? Go ahead.
Yeah, so Apple is releasing a song with Ilis Morena, and a singer Fana, called "Wind It."
Wind It,
and June 5th.
Okay.
Apple
June 5th.
June 5th. So next Friday.
World
Okay.
Environment Day.
World Environment.
What
Day.
is it called?
Wind It.
Wind It, as in wind it.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a wind it
Okay.
motion. he has a series of songs that he'll be releasing throughout the year.
Is it going to be forming into an album of some sort?
Yeah, like there's a collection of songs that are all kind of similar. That'll be an album. He has a collection of songs that sound like something else. That will probably be an EP or something. He has several different OPM Filipino artists on as features and
Like collaboration. Maybe
collaborations.
Maybe you can name drop a few. Is there anybody that you can mention here as one of his collaborators?
Yeah. So the one I really enjoy was well, I enjoy all of them. I say it like that. Sunkissed Lola is on.
Sunkissed Lola. Oh,
the
they were here last year in Tops.
Yeah. So Sunkissed Lola was it's a song I really like. Oh, Ilis Morena and Wind It song. He did a song. She's not technically Filipino, but Sandara Park. He did Too Proud.
He's an adopted Filipino.
Yeah, and then last year he did a song with SB19.
Oh wow!
So
wow.
These kind of things just kind of add up.
Are these songs recorded here in the Philippines, or are they recorded in LA, or what?
Mostly the Philippines.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so we have the equipment and the know-how to record world-class music in the Philippines already.
You would be amazed by how shoestringy some of the recording.
Shoestringy.
Well, the technology is so great these days, right?
Okay.
So as long as you have a microphone, quite frankly, like getting to soundproof is, it is what it is. Like, I mean, for like the history of time, like some of the best songs that we've ever had recorded were in these like really unconventional spaces.
Like closets and bedrooms.
Like the closet of an apartment in North Hollywood, is the location for this. And I think some of that's like a little bit welcomed in today's world where everything can be a little too clean, a little bit too sterile.
Too perfect.
We need, like the kids are doing it today with their 2.1 megapixel camera retros. We need a little bit of character in some things.
So the moral of the story is you can record your music anywhere. And you'll sound original.
I don't know if you'll necessarily sound original, but like not everything has to be just flawless to be flawless. There's character in the other sounds.
If I want to know more about this side of Apple, the app that I was oblivious about until today, that he is a farmer, that he has all of these advocacies, and he's actually legally blind and all of these things. That where should I go? Where should I go if I want especially a help in the advocacies of Apple the app?
So Apple's Instagram can use some followers. So we can start there. The company that's doing the project here with Sarah is called OMSE. OMTSE. It means Our Mission to Save Earth. .com. We have a Substack there. We talk a lot about the projects that we're working on and how we really look at natural capital from an ecological and economic standpoint, like Sarah so greatly said, and how these two things can really kind of come together. And if you want to help or volunteer or know anybody or find a job like that, that's where.
So go to Omse.
Omse.com.
Omse.com.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much. And Don, thank you so much. And before I let you go, Sarah and Don, I have a last final question for you for Sarah. Like, in this day and age where greed seems to be taking over the world, what are your thoughts on how we can turn things around? Because I think you have a very, very gargantuan task of saving the earth, right? Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. What inspire us, please. Inspire both of us here, Ralph and myself.
Well, I guess it's very interesting because Handura Panao is a local, like we're working with a bioregioning process of Cebu. Bioregions are natural boundaries of nature or based on the culture and ethnicity of a place. So natural boundaries like water, rivers, it's going beyond political boundaries. I'm just saying that because because a lot of our conflicts and challenges are politically,
Absolutely, especially
you know,
here, right?
Yeah, and we know that the current and even the future wars are going to be about resources, water, food, energy. We know that it's happening.
It's happening right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
The war of
And-
energy is already there. The resources of war, it's all there.
Yeah, and our work as a bioregional approach is to look at natural contours of nature as a way of calling common homes, our commons, no, our common river, our common. So I think it's a very big question.
Okay. But just give us a little bit of hope. Come on. Come on. Because we
So,
feel hopeless. We were just talking
yeah.
about AI earlier and we feel hopeless now.
I give you a little bit of hope. I used to go to several climate COPs.
Okay, what is that? What is that
Climate COPs is a conference of parties
Okay.
where governments come together to talk about
World
climate
world
agendas.
governments, okay.
Yeah, if you know about the Paris Agreement
Oh, yes,
in
yes.
2015, that's like
Yeah.
when countries committed to phase out fossil fuels
Yeah.
and everything, right? And so and then my nonprofit before for 7 years, 8 years was called Green Relief. We work with permaculture and regenerative design in disaster areas.
Okay.
We work with indigenous communities, farmers, and everything. So we've seen the front lines. So we've seen after Yolanda, we've seen after Typhoon Ulysses, we've seen
Ulysses,
after
okay.
Typhoon Lawin and everything. So we've also worked with the Marawi siege. But what we've seen there, when it hit my home in Cebu, when Typhoon Odette happened.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it didn't damage my home, but we know what happened in Cebu, right?
Absolutely.
We had no water for almost a month, electricity. It was such a difficult time. It feels like strange people forgot about it. So after that, I kind of I didn't feel hope joining climate COPs anymore. It's like
Climate COPs. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
because there are several COPs, the biodiversity COPs, all these COPs. But I kind of lost hope there because why would I go there? Like we've been speaking for many COPs already, and my home finally, got hit. It was a big thing. I went through climate grief and everything. So, but the hope I'm finding is that after that, actually, we brought Cebuanos together. We brought the farm, food, forest, coastal, marine ecosystem advocates. We looked at a learning journey, which is exactly the same thing we're doing now, to understand what are the systemic relationship of our challenges. So a lot of them is really about the loss of trust, the loss of leadership and capacity. Because there's so many solutions.
Yeah.
I tell you, hundreds of solutions. There's lots of funding and everything. But why doesn't funding reach people? Why is there politics everywhere? Because it's a lack of leadership, the lack of capacity to bridge divides, to build trust and listen and understand and dialogue.
Okay.
So looking at our place, our home, our common home, it's all that we have, right? So when we listen to each other, to understand each other, to start local first, but of course related to the planetary challenges. But that's the first thing we can do anyway. It's our common home. It's our common future. So if we don't take care of what we have now and where we are, I think that's a hopeful thing to do.
Okay.
So actually, I wasn't supposed to come back here in Cebu. So there's a part of me that feels like, why am I here again? Because I could work somewhere else
Oh, wow.
and everything. So
Why are you here?
well, Typhoon Tino kept me back. And I realized, the work we've started is much more needed now.
Okay.
And now that's why we're here and doing this again. Hopefully it's going to work.
I am sure
But,
it
yeah,
will
we're
work,
grateful
especially
for
with the help of
collaborations.
Don and Apple the app. I'm sure that
Yeah.
Cebu will be treated to a
Hopefully.
big surprise in
Yeah.
the next coming months. I want you guys to stay tuned to 105.1 TMC so that you will know what is going down
Yeah.
with Apple the app. Please make sure you subscribe and support and follow. Where can they find your advocacy on the socials? Go ahead,
Right.
Sarah.
So my initiative now, because I closed my nonprofit, we were so burnt out and everything. So it's called Living Story Landscapes.
Living Story Landscapes.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So, but I haven't updated everything. But yeah, Living Story Landscapes. So we added story there because our goal is the story. To restore and to restoring our ecosystems, restoring our narratives, our relationship. But restore is to change the story, to change the narrative of our
Restoring
relationships.
and restore.
Restoring. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Sarah.
Salamat. Daghan salamat.
Don, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I've learned so many things about Apple Yap and about nature and all of that stuff in one afternoon. Thank you, both of you.
Thank
you so much. Thank you.
so much.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, it is happening very soon. Stay tuned, okay, to 105.1 TMC. And we'll talk to Sarah and Don some more in the next coming weeks or months to give us some updates on what is going down with Apple Yap and with Sarah's advocacy. Daghang salamat sa inyong pagpaminaw. Thank you for listening to On the Spot on 105.1 TMC, the best of us.